Old school RuneScape is pretty well known for all the different quests and how they are some of the most unique content in any MMORPG ever. But not all the quests are great or even all that fun, some are actually pretty awful, which is what I'll be going over today. These are the top 10 worst quests on old school RuneScape. Number 10. All you do in this quest is talk to some white knights, then you run to a handful of locations and look for some wizard dude, and then you kill him. It's pretty monotonous and it feels pretty dragged out, but the quest only takes 30 minutes or so. It's alright, but it is not at all a fun quest to do.
Number 9.
Garden of Tranquility. This is the quest you all know as that one where you spend your whole afternoon waiting for plants to grow. It sucks and I don't want to talk about it anymore, although it does have a really cool cutscene at the end. Number 8. Taipo Wana Trio. Another run-of-the-mill do a bunch of boring chores quest. This one has caused a lot of frustrations for new players, including me at some point. It really has a way of making relatively easy tasks feel a lot more tedious than they should, like how it's really difficult to cross that one bridge for some reason, and how the next step usually involves running to the other side of the island. Number 7. Rat Catchers. I got stuck on that stupid mansion sneaking puzzle thing for hours first time I did this quest. It's boring enough to talk to some random NPCs about rats and then killing some rats, but that sneaking part is easily one of the most frustrating puzzles in the entire game.
Number 6.
Moorlands End Part 1. This quest is absolutely ridiculous. You have to run around the Elven land, get a murder disguise, do a bunch of nonsense with some frogs, a cannon, and some chemicals. It kinda makes sense, but at the same time it doesn't really. I wouldn't even say the quest is all that memorable. It's mostly remembered for being that one bad quest you have to do before you start the even worse quest, which I'll get to soon. Number 5. A Taste of Hope. A Taste of Hope is just Darkness of Hallowell, but longer and more tedious since you're forced to do the whole Mario Ditch obstacle course thing a lot more than you should. I think that speaks for itself. Number 4. Edgars Ruse. This quest has so much running back and forth, it's not even funny. It's one of the few quests in the whole game that feels straight up spiteful to whoever dares try and complete it. Story-wise, it's not even that interesting, you're just helping this Edgar guy escape safely in one of the most tedious ways imaginable. But at least this quest is only 30 minutes long, so I can't really put it any higher. Number 3. Moorlands End Part 2. Surprising absolutely nobody, running around and doing a completely incomprehensible puzzle while a bunch of creatures attack you and drain your supplies isn't fun at all. There's also the risk of selecting the wrong option on the lever and resetting the whole puzzle, which I might accidentally have done at some point. Moorlands End Part 2 manages to be one of the most long, frustrating and nerve-wracking quests in the entire game, all three at the same time, which is quite the accomplishment. I also don't really get the whole death talisman thing. I mean, why do you have to give this dwarf so much random shit just to get a death talisman? Of course, I'm not an Iron Man or Number 2. Regicide. Regicide is basically Moorlands End Part 1 on crack. It contains even more Elven land bullshit, even more tedious and nonsensical steps, and worst of all, you have to go through the underground pass again. And guess what? If you forget an item, like for example, if you drop the big book of banks because you thought you have to read it once, and then you could drop it like every other book in the game, or if you get screwed over by the RNG with the jumping sections of the caves where you could potentially lose a rope every time you try and you do lose a rope every time you do it, so if you get fucked over, you really get fucked over. And if you, for example, forget a spade, then you have to go back through the underground pass all over again. Now imagine all of those things happening at the same time. It happened to me, and it was one of the worst feelings I have ever felt in this game. Being forced to spend about 3 hours on a 1 to 2 hour quest. And somehow it's only at second place, so you can really imagine how bad the number 1 is. Number 1. Monkey Madness 2. On old school RuneScape, I have completed Regicide 3 times, gotten skull tricked, died countless times in the wilderness, lost hundreds of mils in a single day at the Jewel Arena, been a part of Hexes and left a year later. And I have tried to solo Nightmare.
Go f*** yourself.
But none of that compares to the time I did Monkey Madness 2 for the first time. It was the worst. And I mean the worst. The first dungeon is an absolute nightmare, with a somewhat difficult boss fight at the end just to really top it all off. The final boss is quite tedious and pretty difficult as well, especially if you're low level, which I kinda was at the time. And in between all of that, you have to run around talking to a bunch of NPCs for a solid hour. But worst of all is the platforming thing. It's like the Ratcatcher sneaking part times 10. You have to memorize the whole layout and every monkey location, as well as their path. And you need to plant a ton of explosives. And if you get caught, you lose a ton of progress. Better hope you remembered where to go, or where to find more explosives, or where you planted those fucking explosives. If not, then you're completely fucked. And when you get caught, you'll get sent all the way back. It is the least forgiving and most annoying part of pretty much any game I've played. I rage quit this part of the quest 3 times. I spent several days gritting my teeth, trying again and again for a little bit of progress, and then just quitting altogether. But eventually I got through it, and I made a fuck ton of GP at Demonic Gorillas, so I guess it was all worth it.